doing? What are you doing? What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and today we're going to be talking just one last time about E3 2021, which is why I have this adorable little dog on my lap. But today, I want to just talk about the best of the best and the worst of the worst. The games that looked fantastic and the reveals that completely fell flat. I have done a bunch of reactions talking about a bunch of the press conferences right after they happened, and thanks to all the new subscribers and crazy views and stuff like that. But today, what we're going to do is go a little bit deeper, because honestly, after we saw a lot of those initial, trailers and stuff, the developers came out and showed us more in-depth looks. A lot of these games that looked kind of bad at the start actually got more information, more reveals, more cool stuff about them. So let's start off with just some of the negatives. The thing that was definitely the most shockingly bad, in my opinion, of all the games they showed off, because think about it, there was definitely hundreds of games that were shown at E3 this year, the number one project that still just completely blows my mind was the pixel-perfect classic Final Fantasy project. Now, these are going to be cell phone adaptations of Final Fantasies 1 through 6. Now, initially, when we first saw it, people were just kind of mad because it's only coming to Steam and mobile. It's not coming to any different console. But now people are actually using the trailer footage that they showed off and analyzing it and discovering that this is going to be, in fact, a terrible versions of the games themselves. That's what's most shocking about this, is that, okay, it sucks it's not coming to consoles, but now we actually learned that these pixel-perfect adaptations are actually going to be awful. It is just some straight-up terrible art. Something that completely drives me nuts sometimes is when you take a good version of a game and then make a bad version of it, where a port feels lazy or rushed, and that's kind of what this project looks like, because it just seems like they sat down in a boardroom and said, what is the minimum we can do? What is the bare bottom we can possibly do for this project and still hope it sells? And this is what they came up with, which to me is just absolutely disgraceful, which is kind of strange because a project that originally looked kind of bad, that I'm shocked that they managed to repair so much, was definitely Halo Infinite. This is going on the good list. I am completely blown away by Halo Infinite. The gameplay they showed off, they ended up doing those initial teases of it and stuff, showing off the campaign and more about the world and Halo Zeta. This dog is falling asleep on my lap and it's so cute. After Microsoft did that initial reveal during the Xbox Bethesda conference, they showed off a bunch more of it the next day, including a lot of gameplay. I'm being straight up, people sometimes call me an Xbox hater. I loved Halo Infinite. Even I'm shocked to say this, Halo Infinite was certainly one of my favorite games to show off at all of E3. The gameplay looks tight, aiming looks tight, combat looks incredibly good. I'm shocked to say this, but Halo Infinite looks to be one of the best games of the year if it comes out this freaking polished. And I'm hoping I can get into the Halo Infinite beta, because I definitely want to just pick up a controller and play it for myself as soon as freaking possible. Now I want to talk about Elden Ring. Alright, so Elden Ring, I've been excited about this project forever because, honestly, I'm a gigantic Dark Souls fanboy. I love Miyazaki games. I love the idea of slow combat and crazy gigantic bosses and not completely transparent writing and stuff. The fact that they're actually combining the crazy lore of George R.R. Martin with this game seems fantastic, and they showed off so much more of it here at E3, talking in depth about the world. Apparently, this game is going to have a non-traditional narrative sense. You can beat the game, there's a series of kingdoms, and you could do them in whatever order you want. So there'll be a lightning boss or a fire demon or whatever, and you can choose to do stuff however you want, and even choose to maybe fight the last boss earlier on to unlock different endings. This entire project, the more we hear about it, the more we see interviews and stuff, the more I'm just completely intrigued by what Elden Ring is turning into. This game is coming up in January, and it has just blown me away so much. But let's dig into just a tiny bit of bads. Oh my god, Guardians of the Galaxy just looks like utter trash. I've actually tried to just go back and rewatch it. There was that 20-minute reveal they did during the Square Enix press conference. I've watched it a second time now. God help me. It is just so terrible. Why are you looking at my hands? What are you doing? That game just looks so freaking out of touch with what fans want. People actually want a game that manages to be, fun and exciting and witty. Now, I've said this in the past, some of the most difficult stuff to write in video games is jokes. Like, straight up, being able to make humor that's timeless, and, like, so much of a good joke is about proper shock and delivery. So making good jokes in a video game, I understand just how difficult that is. The jokes in this gameplay are so awful. Like, it is so bad. Like, and I feel bad saying that because this is being done by one of the writers who does a bunch of work for the Guardians of the Galaxy comics. I have no idea who is screwing this up, whether it's the voice delivery, whether it's just the way the game is directed. Maybe it's just this trailer was edited so badly. But my god, this is just some of the most cringe, absolute purified cringe of all of E3 was straight up from this event. Guardians of the Galaxy, my god, it looks like such a freaking train wreck. Unlike, I have to do some freaking Nintendo love here, Breath of the Wild 2. There is already so many conspiracy theories, there's so many freaking fans just analyzing every second of this. They only showed us about a minute and a half of actual gameplay, but it actually gave us such a good reveal as to what Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be about. It looks like just the further adventures of messed up Hyrule, and I mean, I like Zelda a lot. This looks just so good, though. Like, part of the reason that Breath of the Wild was one of my very favorite Nintendo Switch games, and maybe even one of my favorite Zelda games of all time, was because of the openness, the ability to roam around, smash some weapons, do some shrines. Like, I thought that Breath of the Wild, it really managed to exemplify that exploration aspect of Zelda, of being in this world and just kind of being stuck to figure things out. The idea of this like multi-tiered landscape this time about having flying kingdoms, flying castles, having to skydive at times off of stuff, which seems to be what the trailers are implying, that seems like such a great and quite frankly logical evolution of Zelda itself. So I'm definitely on board for it. Also, while we're talking about Nintendo, I loved everything they showed off about Metroid Dread. So after they did the initial tease trailer for it, which was already fantastic, they did the Nintendo Treehouse, where basically what happened is that Nintendo sits down and plays a huge chunk of their upcoming games. Metroid Dread looks nuts. I love 2D Metroidvanias way more than 3D Metroidvanias. I mean, just when it comes to like the idea of having to backtrack and get unlockables and find new areas and stuff like that, I just enjoy that like format of gameplay more when it's left to right, you know, stuff like that. Well, Metroid Dread, oh my god. So it looks like this is actually going to be a continuation of the Metroid Fusion storyline. Which is fantastic because that's my favorite freaking Metroid game. But more than that, it just looks so sharp. The graphics, the 3D character models, like, it just looks like it's going to be spooky and claustrophobic and exactly what I want in a Metroid game as, like, a fan of the series. Now I want to talk a bit more about some bads. The biggest thing that kind of sucked during this press conference is something I'm going to group together as just a whole point. Why did we see so much downloadable content? So many of these press conferences that just came out, and everybody did this. Like For Honor DLC being shown during Ubisoft, Monster Hunter just getting a bunch of DLC during the Capcom presentation, even Nintendo. As much as I liked the Nintendo Direct, I do not care about Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity getting extra story chapters and stuff. I mean, even Activision showed up to talk about like Warzone updates for Call of Duty. Like, okay, so I am being objective here. I'm just talking about my point of view. What I enjoy most when it comes to these like conferences is seeing the future. It's seeing games that I haven't played yet. It's new weapons, new abilities, new magic, new graphics when it comes to stuff like that. When you just show existing projects, I guess my thought is that there was just so much DLC. There was so much from wall to wall, by end to end. Are you trying to hop down? What are you doing? Like, it was my thought is that if you're going to do a little bit of DLC, that's one thing, but constantly, every single showcase, people are trying to show you extra ways to monetize the games you already have sitting on your shelf. That to me was just such a strange touch. While we're talking about this, another point that I put on here more specifically is a game that I hated to see again. Fallout 76. This is just so bizarre to me that they just keep bringing this game out. Fallout 76, how much money can you really be making on this project? Fallout 76 looks like trash. Like, graphically, gameplay-wise, it's nuts to me that they actually decide to pull this out of their own volition and parade that corpse around. How many microtransactions are you selling? How can that game be profitable enough to get all this content, all these updates? It must be a development team of like 15 people or something, because I do not know how they just keep showing off Fallout 76, but seriously, put that into a freaking closet. Talking again about the positives, though, there was a game that was very, very shortly showed. It was a little indie project called Replaced, which is like a 2D action-adventure game that looks like like the storyline apparently is like a cyborg or a artificial intelligence that's stuck in a human body, and so he's like going on this like shooter crazy adventure. Everybody's been saying good things about Replaced. I decided to go back and watch the trailer again because I just saw the positive hype about it. Replaced, I think that's the indie game of the year to watch. I feel like every E3 there's like one crazy indie game that just seems incredibly high quality. That's the one for E3 2021. I think that's the one that we should all pay attention to. It seems like one of those projects that really manages to just focus on like art and style above all else. Because, I mean, a lot of indie games now are made by like 5 people or something. Like, this game seems so freaking good. It seems so high quality for just how tiny it was. And honestly, let's just say this. I'm glad that Microsoft put stuff like that on the stage. I'm glad that Microsoft showed off a bunch of random projects. Big games like Redfall, a lot of their own first-party stuff, but I really like the fact that Microsoft decided to basically show off really good, tiny projects that absolutely deserve the spotlight. Now, the last game that I want to talk about, in my opinion, is probably the worst that was shown off at E3 21. I mean, this is just so weird. 2021 had a lot of like strange projects that were just so low quality, but this one was literally low quality, which was Babylon's Fall. So this is being made by Platinum Games. This is a studio that specifically became famous originally for making their games that have long combos, crazy combat, and very, very, very eccentric, crazy stuff. This is the actual art. Like, I'm trying to make this extra clear. I'm rendering this video at 1080p. I'm filming this thing in 1080p. The actual screenshots look like something from a Game Boy Advance. This is not me making it up. This is actually how the game is going to look and function and visually be foretold. Like, it's nuts to me that why would you do this on purpose? Why would you sit down and make a game that's probably going to play great because it is Platinum Games, but choose to make it look like absolute doo-doo caca? I am stunned by just the decision to purposely make your game look this awful. It is straight up painful to my eyes to look at this, but that's what they've chosen to do. There's actually a beta test coming up for this, and I'm trying to get into it just so I can play it and see what the hell why did they do this? What went wrong to create this kind of game? Alright, well, this has just been some off-the-cuff thoughts, some final reminders about E3 2021, because I kind of wanted to just talk about stuff one last time. Now that we've seen some stuff, now that we've seen gameplay, now that we've seen more developer interviews, and honestly more screenshots and stuff, there are some projects that have caught my eye a lot. If I had to declare a winner, if I had to say like a particular group, a press conference that I think is the winner, I'm going to say that I think Microsoft won E3 by the tiniest notch. And I think it's just because they did do like an hour and a half of all freaking great games. Like, Microsoft, they flooded it. Right below them, I think Nintendo. I loved Nintendo's press conference so much, and it had a lot of stuff that me as a fan of stuff like Advance Wars, obviously things like Maiden of Blackwater, Nintendo was definitely there. And then right below that, I'm going to put Peggy, because Peggy made that actually a lot more fun to watch. And then right below them, everybody else. Everybody else lost. There were 2 winners for frickin' E3 2021. It was Nintendo and it was Xbox. Everybody else go in the dumpster fire. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. What did you think about E3 2021? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. Actually, I want to show you my shirt. Okay, Peggy. Look at this. I decided to get the meme. If you ever play Final Fantasy XIV, everybody always says, try out the critically acclaimed MMORPG. I got a shirt of the Final Fantasy XIV meme, because I'm that kind of guy. thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.